So I'm heading to the Delaware Shore this weekend to visit my mom for her 65th birthday. And then I'm going to Origins literally next Wednesday. So like I'm leaving tomorrow morning at 5 in the morning. And then I get back Monday night, and then literally Wednesday is Origins. It's fine. It's gonna be fine. My mom and I aren't super close, but she's always there when I need her, and she taught me, I think, a lot of my rebellious stuff subconsciously. She's a rebel in her own way. And oh, this part of my tattoo, this shell, is her, because she loves the beach and shells, and she always has. She's a mermaid spirit, I guess. So yeah, I might take some video at the shore. That'd be kind of cool, and somehow compile it next week before Origins. We'll see. I definitely want to get some film at Origins and some people who are visiting in town who are also game designers. So that should be kind of cool. But in this video, I wanted to talk about, what did I want to talk about? Yes, I wanted to elaborate on the point from my last video about all game mechanics being political, and games being political in general, just very briefly, and then at the end do a Q&A. So some things to tell the politics of a game mechanic, or of a game in general. What is the thing that the mechanics are centering most in the game? So, you know, is it centering physical fighting? Is it centering feelings? Is it centering competition? Is it non-competitive? You know, I'm trying to think of like other examples. Is it centering flirtation, like Kagematsu does? Or is it centering maybe exploration? Or is it centering theft or skullduggery or violence? So those are some things that mechanics could center in a game. But whatever it is centering is basically telling you the most important thing about that game and what that game is about, because that's what you'll be doing in the game. And so that's important to look at. What are the mechanics centering? Also look at who the mechanics are centering. Is it centering people who are marginalized or people who are the status quo? Is it centering women, men, non-binary people? Is it centering people of color? Is it centering fighters, or is it centering sensitive people? Is it centering children or adults? So like that will not only tell you the themes of the game, but also who is most important to that game's structure. And so politically, that game is saying, these are the most important people in my game, and all other people are secondary or non-important. So that's important to look at as well. In role-playing games, it's often the case that mechanics aren't just dice rolling, but they're also narrative. A lot of the things that are invisible in role-playing games are the stories that we're telling, right? Not just like the consequences of our actions when we roll dice, but what the story actually is. So looking at that narrative structure, what does the story support? You know, is it supporting a play that is, you know, supporting marginalized people essentially? Like, is it taking power back? Is it, what philosophy is it supporting? Is that theft is okay, or that people with the most power are always right? Looking at those things in the narrative itself of the game, so that's like the setting and the characters maybe that the writer wrote, or the types of stories you'll be playing, like are you pirates or are you police officers, right? That tells you a lot about the politics of the game itself too. You also want to take a look at the villains are in the story. So who are the villains? You know, if we look at Disney movies, the villains are often queer-coded, which is hugely problematic. You know, it's basically saying anyone with queer characteristics is a villain, and, you know, the bad guy or lady or whatever. So pay attention to who the villains are. Orcs are also hugely problematic. They're, you know, basically people from another culture that you don't understand, who you can, you know, murder and steal from without questioning. So think about who you're making the villains. in the game, and not just as writers, but also as GMs and players. I think it's easy to fall back on some problematic tropes when it comes to villains, and that can say a lot about the politics of your game if your villains are queer-coded, for example, just like Disney's villains. And I wanted to follow up with some more Q&A, so those are my politics things. But the Q&A is John LaBeouf Little asks, how do you playtest LARPs efficiently? I'm about to playtest a LARP this next weekend at Origins, and I guess it depends on what you mean by efficient. If you've got a 4-hour con slot, you kind of just want to play the LARP as you would play any game. Like try to write out everything that you're going to do as the facilitator of the LARP, and then try to follow your instructions and see if they work. I think that's a great way to playtest anything, really. But for LARPs, you know, I think try to get together people the same way you would for a tabletop game. I know sometimes that's a harder sell with LARPs. Trying to build some kind of small LARP community in your town, the same way that you would build like a tabletop community of people who might want to be interested in playtesting your games, would be a smart idea too. I hope that was helpful. And then Josh Roby asks, what makes a game idea a tabletop role-playing game idea or a LARP idea? This is a really interesting argument. I think really the only difference between tabletop and LARPs is one is standing up and one is sitting down. I also think it depends just like on the atmosphere of the game you're going for. Do you think it could be played in a one-shot, in one setting? Would you like to see costuming or not costuming? Do you think that the mechanics would be suited to characterization, which I think leans more towards the LARP side, or is it more world building, which I think leads a little bit more towards the tabletop role-playing side, which is not 100% true, but it's like 90% true based on a lot of the games that exist now, but please break those rules. So really, I don't know, when I'm deciding, I kind of try to imagine what the game looks like to me when it's playing, and kind of decide if I want to roll dice doing it or if I want to dress up and talk with people doing it. And then that kind of leads me down the path of tabletop or LARP. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Please like, subscribe, and fund me on Patreon. Go to my Patreon and support me, please. That'd be great. And next time you see me, I'll probably have some beach pictures, hopefully.